Alright guys, so in this lesson I'm going to be taking you through how to add some overall adjustments and sort of grade and overall overlays that we can add to the video as a global layer. So this is going to be something that's going to affect every single clip on the timeline. So whereas before when we're adding specific overlays and transitions, you can see that we're layering them in certain places that are affecting individual clips. But for this, we're going to be showing you how to overlay overall adjustments that are going to affect every single clip on this timeline. So that's going to help with the overall feel and tone of the video, try and make it nice and congruent throughout so that it feels like one unique piece. So we're going to start off by making an adjustment layer. We're going to click New Item and go into the adjustment layer here. And we're just going to bring this in to our sequence, drag it up into there for now. We're going to go ahead and call this overall, we'll call it grade. And we're going to bring this up to here and drag it out for the duration of our video. Now we're going to go into the effects. We're going to type in Lumetri color and we are going to drag the Lumetri color onto this clip here. Perfect. Now we're going to play around with these effects in the Lumetri color. So what I want to add overall, I think, first of all, is a soft vignette. Vignette is like on the curves of the edges. We're going to bring in like a sort of circle effect that makes the edges darker and as an effect, the sort of middle brighter. So if I was to show you an extreme version of that, would be something like that. So you can see, let's turn these off for now. So you can see how much that affects the outskirt of the image. Now that's quite extreme, so we'll reset that and let's bring it in maybe about there. Let's see how that affects another clip somewhere along the timeline, maybe here. Okay, so let's turn that off a second. So you can see what it's doing there a bit. Let's sort of bring in the overall viewpoint of the image more into the center. Now what you can also do is you can add like a sort of overall sort of tone in terms of colors and effects. Like for example in the section here, could add like an overall look that Adobe already has built in, so you can play around with those effects and the intensity. So these are already sort of presets that are already made for certain tones and feels, and I can change the intensity here, play around with that. So like I could literally have it as low as 10% if I wanted to. Let's see how that is currently looking. I don't think I will use this, but let's just show you what that is doing to the image. So you can see it's kind of playing around, especially if I keep it even stronger. So that's all I'm going to add on those for now. You can really go into depth with this and, you know, play with the shadows in the image and mess around really. Like I can add like a bit of an overall hue to the video in the shadows, in the highlights here. So feel free to play around with the Lumetri color. There's lots you can do, but color in itself is a whole another topic that we could spend hours on. But for now, I just want to add that sort of global effect throughout. Perfect. I'm also going to add one more effect here. I'm going to type in Gaussian blur. I'm going to drag this onto the adjustment layer as well. And I'm going to set, let's just increase this first so we can see what it's doing. So we're going to increase that to say 20%. So you can see how that's affecting the image, making it nice and blurry. And then I'm going to click this button here. And that is going to create a central sort of mask. So now anything inside of that circle is going to be blurry, and I'm just going to extend this out. So essentially we're creating a vignette with a Gaussian blur effect. At the moment it's in the middle, so we need to invert it. I'm going to invert that there. So now you can see it's affecting the outside of the image, but it's obviously quite strong on the cutoff look. So you can see if I was to toggle this on and off, it's quite harsh at the moment, so you can see that change there. So what we're going to do is feather this out. So we're going to feather it out, so that is essentially, if I was to click on this, you'll be able to see. So you see the dotted lines around the outside, it's sort of expanding, it's like slowly fading it in through that. So let's expand this right out. I literally just want this effect to kind of touch the sides of the image. I'm also going to lower the overall blurriness effect to about 15. This will be really subtle overall, but it's just adding a little bit of an edge to that. Let's see how that looks on other parts of the image. Cool, so you see kind of how it's affecting the outsides a little bit here. So that is how we add an adjustment layer to the whole video. So as you can see, whatever this is above, this is going to affect. If you think that it's ever too much, the quickest way to change that now is to come into the opacity and down the overall opacity. So you could put that to 50% and that'll half the effect to 50%. Cool, we're also going to do something else that I like to do to videos to really sort of add a little bit more of a unique feel. We're going to add an overall grain layer. Cool, so I brought in some grain that I like to use. So we're going to bring this grain. So grain, for those who don't know, I will show you what it looks like. It looks like that. So at first, obviously we can't see anything now. So we're going to change the blender mode on this to overlay. And then we will be able to see everything underneath. That might be quite strong at the moment. You can kind of see how that is affecting the image at the moment a little bit. A bit more of like a old kind of feel like to the overall piece. Now I'd suggest that 100% is probably pretty strong on the grain, so I bring it down to about 35. That's my normal sweet spot that I like to use, and it's pretty subtle, but it's adding that overall feel. Perfect. You can see that the grain at the moment doesn't last the whole length, so what I do like to do with my grain, especially if I'm making a long piece that's sort of 40 minutes, 30 minutes long, and I want to cover that whole thing in grain, I nest it, and I'll create a grain layer, and then inside of here, I will bring this down, copy, and then I'll just paste it a bunch of times, select all of those again, paste all of those, and then nice and quick, we've already made a sequence there of grain that's sort of 30 minutes long. So if I was to go back now into my edit, I can just drag that out to fit. So something else I like to add sometimes to individual clips as well to add that sort of extra little bit of feel is some light hits or some lens flares. So I've downloaded one pre-ready here just from ArtGrid, and let's drag it in. So let's drag that into our sequence here. Let's have a little look. So we're going to need to scale it first of all. Perfect. And then we're going to change the blending mode on this to screen so that we can see what will go underneath it. Underneath the overlay as well, so that the overlay sits on top of it. So you can see that what it's doing. So let's have a little pause over this image. So if I was to turn it off and on, you can see there how it's affecting the image. Maybe it's a little bit harsh. Let's bring it down a little bit. 65%, cool. Let's play that.
His mother brewed illegal liquor, they were broke.
Cool, and that's just an individual lens flare that I've added to one little image to make it sort of stand out a little bit more, make the image a little bit more unique. And then I'm going to show you one more example of something where an overlay might look quite good. So we're going to go to this section here. So this is just a little animation that's been created between the images that are being used. If we play this through.
In fact, he made the greatest investment of all.
So it's kind of like a little picture reel that's going.
He made the greatest investment of all.
So what we're going to do, you can hear the sound effects where they are. I'm going to add like a little flicker as if it's like some old sort of camera overlay on top of that, I think. So let's go find an overlay for that. So I've got a clip that I've downloaded here of a overlay that will look quite nice, I think, along with this footage. So I'm going to drag that in. I'm going to change the blending mode again to screen. Perfect. So if I was to play that the whole way throughout, it would look quite distracting at the moment. It would work, I think, but obviously I want it to be a little bit more specific. So when it clicks and actually moves is when I'm going to add the effect. So I might have it for a few frames only. There we go, cut there. So now this might help with the transition. Cool, I quite like that.
He made the greatest investment of all.
And I quite like that one again there. It's kind of sitting perfectly. So this is like another little individual effect that we can add to, it's like a bit of a glitch, I suppose, is the best way of describing this sort of overlay. So there we go. That's how you add an overall sort of adjustment layer to affect the whole image. As I said, you can do anything you want with that. Add a vignette, add the blur, playing around with the blending modes, playing around with the effects that we can add on top. So hope you enjoyed that one. And we will be moving on now to an overall sort of recap so that we are ready to export the final video. We're almost there.